What is up, you beautiful boys and girls? This is Tyler Tote. Thanks for tuning into the channel. Guys, if you spent any time around us, you know I'm really passionate, really fired up about adoption, foster care. This is something me and my wife have been into for about 4.5, 5 years. So today I'm going to run you through kind of the story of how we got started, 3 or 4 things you really need to know going in, maybe a mistake or two that we wish we knew before we had started the process to save you a little heartache, and kind of walk you guys through the steps in the process. If you feel called or you feel like, hey, this is something I'm pretty interested in, this is a video I think that you could watch through 5, 6, 8 minutes and really learn a few things. And so, any questions that you guys might have below, again, really passionate about this topic. Super blessed. We've had 8 babies in and out of our house over the last few years. We reunited 5 of them very happily back to families, and we were honored to do that. One went back to a really hard situation, and then, we got to adopt our 2 boys right here, biggest blessings in the entire world, about a year plus ago. So I'm gonna get into that today with you. Thanks for tuning in, and let's hop in. So our adoption journey started about 4.5, 5 years ago. I'll never forget the night. My wife and I are laying in bed, we're cuddling, we're talking, doing the nightly thing. And she mentions, Ty, I feel like we should adopt. Maybe we should look into fostering and helping kids. I think at the time she told me there were 650 plus kids in an orphanage where we lived, that just no home, no parents, just no real hope. And she said, I think we have means, we could be a solution for that. Like any good husband, the first thing I said is no. I said, look, I got my own business. I got my own stuff. I'm trying to escape corporate. I'm trying to get a side hustle. I'm trying to do all these things. I don't have time for this. I already got a perfect daughter, as you can see right here, biological daughter. I'm good. Don't do that, guys. I highly recommend against that. But a couple days later, to be honest, and my wife knows me by now, it's kind of my MO. It takes me a day or two to process, and I remember kind of feeling a tug, like, hey, man, you need to investigate this. So did my reading, studied up on it a little bit, and I remember coming back to my wife a couple days later and saying, all right, I'm in if you're in. Let's talk about how to start and do this. So if you know you're on board, you and your spouse, or it's just you, that's great. And now the next steps you need to do, I'll get into here. So just know going in state to state, it's going to be a little different. We got licensed in Illinois, and then again, we transferred to Nevada. There wasn't any real overlap. You kind of had to do the whole process over again. It's sort of like teaching, I think, in that regards, where you might be certified to teach in one state, and then your family moves, and you got to do some CE, continuing ed, and things like that. So first few things to know. Number one, you're going to have to get fingerprinted. You got to pay for this stuff out of pocket, by the way, so it's probably going to cost you a few $100 up front. But you'll have to get fingerprinted, pass a background check. They'll actually come into your home, interview you for 4 or 5 hours. They'll check some of your financials, really trying to make sure you're doing this for the right reason. Now, I'll get into this later. They do pay you a small stipend to be a foster parent. I'll get into some misconceptions about that and some common things that we heard that actually kind of cost us some relationships, people saying some pretty rude things about it, and how I think you can deal with that better. But they do give you a small stipend, so I think it's good that they check up front and make sure that, hey, you're not doing this as trying to say, like, well, if I just get 4 kids and I lock them in the closet all day, I can I can make extra money, right? So once they check through those things, you take 30 to 33, I believe, hours of curriculum. Now, some of this is pretty basic stuff, right? You can't starve a kid. You can't, stuff that I would hope anybody who wants to be a parent would kind of know going in. But I'll be really honest, I really think there's a lot of value in these courses and a lot of the content. I would recommend taking a notebook. They bring up things that you don't necessarily think about what that's going to look like. Integrating another child in with your bio children, or integrating them into a family who may or may not be on board. And so I think it's really good to have these kind of talks and think about these things either with your spouse, with yourself, or loved ones, your network around you that's going to help. And so you get about 30 to 33 hours worth of courses. In Nevada, we were able to do those online. In Illinois, I believe they did not offer that back then, but maybe that's changed. So I would just check with your local DCFS or whoever that is, and that would be your next step. So once you pass all that, and a big wrap up of that is they'll send somebody to your house, and depending on the age range of kids that you want, so we said 5 and under, they needed to make sure, look, we had a fence around our pool, that we had, all the outlets covered, and they kind of walk you through your house and give you a bunch of things that you need to kind of change or do in your house. We had to spend quite a bit and build a fence around our pool to be eligible. So you do need to going in. Again, there's going to be a few $100 up front cost. And then for us, it was about, I think, around $2,000 more to build a fence, to get a couple of the things in our house taken care of so that we were safe enough to have babies come in. Because at the time, our daughter was bigger. She was past that stage, and so we had kind of not thought about that stuff. So that was pretty helpful too. A big tip I can give you guys here, if you're at this channel and you're watching this video thus far, I think you're probably thinking along these terms, but really reach out, seek mentors, network really heavy in the foster community. When you go to these classes and you start to meet people, or even if it's online, what we didn't really realize at the time is no one really else around you is going to understand the feelings and the things you're going through. We raised a little girl for well over a year. She felt like a part of our family. Judges, everybody had told us, the mom's out, there's no dad, it's going to be an adoption case pretty early on. And so we didn't really, you don't want to believe that because things can always happen. But, truthfully, internally, we did. And then we had to give her back to a very unsafe environment where she got pulled out again months later. And it was really just a tumultuous situation. When you love this kid so much, you've taken care of him, and you're putting him back in a very unsafe environment that you know is very unsafe, the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that go with that are really hard. And so I would reach out and network with other foster parents, with other people that have been in this community, mentors that can talk you through some of this stuff. Because I'll be honest, and this was a big surprise to us, some friends, family members would make comments, and I don't think it's to be mean, but just they didn't understand. Well, it's not your child anyway. Why are you that upset about it, And those things would really hurt and dig at you even more because, look, when a little baby is living with you and you're taking care of them and taking them to the park and teaching them all the words and letters and vowels and walk and all these things, and then they're going to an unsafe place, of course that's going to hurt. And so having a community around you is everything. You can start by sending me a message. I'll always help link out. I've got hundreds of thousands of followers across social now. I can probably connect you with other foster parents in your network. So, don't suffer alone is my big advice there. Another tip I'm going to offer you guys is, you're going to have imperfect information all the time. So know going in that, look, it's a government-run agency, whatever you think about government-run agencies. Usually the right hand doesn't know what's happening with the left. And so a lot of times we actually had many times the placement worker would call my wife, say, hey, there's a child at the hospital, no mom, no dad, going to be ready for adoption. If you can be there in 30 minutes and scoop up this child, take him home, this is looking like a straight adoption. We had one funny scenario where I was working at the bank where my wife is texting me, telling me this is pretty early on. So she goes and picks him up. It is 15 minutes later, a grandma came by our house and actually picked up the child with a worker. So we literally had this kid for 15 minutes. She signed him out. In the meantime, we had bought a crib already off Amazon. We're starting to do all these things, right? So, you have to know that going in, that, look, you go in with an open heart to help, to serve, to give these kids a loving home. But you don't want to go in thinking, oh, even when somebody tells you this is a likely adoption, oftentimes it's not. And so we reunited six children back home before we ever had even an opportunity to adopt our two sons. Another tip I'll give you in there, and this kind of relates to the last one, is don't shy away from all special needs kids. We heard so many times like, oh, this kid's a problem, or this is a bad baby, or this baby needs a lot of work, or, the two that we even heard with both of our boys is failure to thrive. Now, look, there's basically two reasons that kids come into foster care: drugs and alcohol, or mental health. And so often these kids didn't get the prenatal care that often other kids would. They didn't start life with a lot of the advantages that, per se, our biological daughter did. But here's the thing, guys, they did come to us both having that term failure to thrive and a lot of problems, and they were wanting to do surgeries on one of my sons. And me and my wife just kept saying, give us a little time, let us integrate him, right? And I truly believe, and I've seen this with both of our healthy, happy boys now, as you can see here, they just needed love, they just needed intention, they just needed encouragement. A lot of these kids will spend time in these orphanages, nobody's holding them, no skin to skin, no voices telling them it's okay, we love you. So yeah, of course they're going to come to you with a little trauma and maybe screaming and crying a little more through the night and things like that. You need to know that going in, but don't shy away just because they say, oh, this child might be hard. Our boys are both living testament. They can overcome anything. They are hitting, they're still in some therapy and things like that, but they're hitting metrics on every single thing they should now. And a lot of times they just need love, encouragement, a safe place to be. So a few warning signs I'd give you before going in, and I kind of alluded to one earlier. Some people are going to look at you when you're a foster parent, and we have heard this so many times, especially with the large social media following now, but you only do it for the money. Oh, what, you're stealing kids for money. We've heard this before, and it's really shocking, man, because to be honest, I never thought of this when we started. We just had a heart to want to help. Look, there's 650 kids sitting in an orphanage. If we can take a few of them out, give them a safe place, reunite them back home, or if nobody wants them, man, we would love to adopt them, and give them a safe and a great life. That was our heart going in. We didn't really think about it from this other angle. I think in Nevada, and I think it's something like $18 a day you get to be a foster parent. We have memberships to Uptown Jungle and Kidzeum and a lot of these trampoline parks. Those memberships are it's $10 a day basically when you take a kid to something like that. If you're gonna feed them well, which we do, my boys are eaters and things like that, you can't really go into this thinking you're gonna make money. I do remember at the end of my banking term, I had a guy call in and say, hey, I want to do foster care as a side hustle. Guys, if you're in it for that, you're in the wrong place. These are children that need loved, safety, encouragement first. You're not going to make a lot of money on this. You're going to get $400 or $500 a month or whatever it turns out to be. But you should invest that back into the child in clothes and food and activities and fun things. In fact, we definitely lose money every month we were doing foster. Just one Chuck E. Cheese round, man, was a $60 afternoon, right? We would do this once a week or so. So I think you need to go into this if you do have the means, if you feel like, hey, God's given us a lot or whatever you think about that, and we just want to pass it on. So that's a misconception and something that you might have to deal with. Another one was just the reaction, again, of some family and friends that kind of said, well, they're not real kids. They're not real this or that. And that really hurts, man. When you're in there in the thick of it and you start to meet a lot of people and you start to understand, what some of these kids go through, it's such an easy thing for somebody on the outside to just say, well, this or that, right? So overall, adoption and foster has been obviously a very net positive for our family. Every family that we've talked to has been very similar in that. But I do want you to know going in, there's very high highs and there's very low lows. There was definitely a week or two after we reunited, one of the girls we had into a rough situation where me and my wife cried every night. I mean, it's brutal to know that a child is going to an unsafe environment, to see that time and time again. It's also just hard to know some of the kids' stories as they come to you. And I'm not going to share those. Those are, not mine to tell. But, it's really made me more of an empathetic and a more kind person as well. When you really get in, I thought growing up in America, I had blessed to have two parents that loved me. I thought everybody had at least one, and now when you kind of get into this foster adoption, you see that's just not the case for a lot of these kids, that they've been bounced around to certain spots and never really felt like they had anybody that was truly there for them. So, I really think the way we change the world, and this is ultimately what me and my wife talked about after my initial bad reaction was, what's the biggest way we can make an impact on the world? It's change the lives of a few kids. Give them a chance. Give them a level playing field. Give them a start in life and really be there for them. So if you feel called to do that again, reach out. Shoot me a comment below. Shoot me a private message. I'm happy to help in any way I can. I truly think this is how we change the world. We help one person at a time, one child at a time, one act of kindness at a time. And so if you're out there today and you've been thinking about this or this is placed on your heart, I hope this has been a little helpful, informative. Any other questions, specific questions, I'm always happy. I'll hop on a quick call with you, tell you everything I know about it. Anything I can do, just let me know. Thanks a lot, guys, and go have the best day of your life.